Hello my quilting friends! Leah Day here with a new Quilty Box video. It's December 2017 and time to check out the box and see what we're going to make together this month. Just in case you've never heard of Quilty Box, basically this is a box of fun gear, tools, supplies, and beautiful fabrics that arrives every month, and each month it's picked by a different designer. So this month's box was put together by Felice Regina, and you can check out her website, IamLunaSoul.com. So let's see what Felice has sent us. We've got a little bit of soak. This is wonderful stuff for washing fabric, and then I also love this for washing delicates like hand washing. This is our felt thread, and this is an invisible thread, and it's got this, it looks like it's black, but once you actually unspool, it'll come out kind of like a smoky color, so that'll be kind of cool. We've also got a little sample of Plum Deluxe. This is some tea, and I love this. This is self-care herbal tea blend. That sounds like something delightful to be drinking in December. We've got a little cute cat pen. I think that was designed by Felice too. It's got two little pen backs, so this would be perfect to add to your pen collection. We've got a Clover Choco pen liner. So this is going to create some nice thicker marks on your fabric, on your quilts. Just as always, with every pen that you ever get, make sure to test it first to make sure it comes out all the way from your fabric. We have the Bundles of Inspiration magazine. This is such a good place to learn more about the featured designer and more about her fabrics, and then you also find the quilt pattern included, so that's really cool. And now the fabrics. This is the best part. I love this part of the Quilty Box. I think I'm gonna dig in here and pull these out to see what we've got this month. So this is Catterday. This is Felice's line of fabrics, and she designed cute cats on the surface. So we've got a cat print there that's in nice pink, bold pink fabric. Another little cute cat print. Ooh, I'm so glad we've got this peach color. That's really cute. And then I think this is stars. So cute purple and yellow print of stars. Then we got, this looks like cat scratches. So that's really cute. I like that design. We've got that in brown. And then this looks like a really nice blender. It's just stitches, you know, in a really simple design. We've got that in orange and pink. And then this one's really sweet. It's more stitches in a bright pink as well. So all of these beautiful pink fabrics are really making me think about candy. So I'm gonna turn off the camera and be thinking about some candy themed designs, and let's figure out the quilt we're gonna make together this month. So here's what we're making this month. This is the double stripe quilt, and it's super simple to put together. Very simple and easy to cut diamond shapes that we're going to piece with some white background diamonds, put them together into units, and then you can kind of play around with it and create a really unique freeform arrangement and piece it together to create a beautiful modern quilt. So let's get on the machine and learn how we're going to cut and piece the double stripe quilt together. So let's get started on our double stripe quilt. I have folded my fat quarter here lengthwise, so that way I can produce some nice long strips of fabric. I'm just gonna fold that in half nice and square, and I just press that fold with my fingers so that way it's creased nicely. So now I'm gonna arrange my ruler here, and I'm just gonna line up a thin line on the ruler with that fold line. So just lining up all the way across. I'm going to square off this end, just like that. So now I'll take the fabric and flip it over. And I do this so that way I can continue cutting with my dominant hand. I don't want to cut with my right hand because I'm left-handed. I did cut myself about a year ago in a Quilty Box video, so I'm always careful to cut with my dominant hand. Okay, so now we're going to cut 4.5 inch wide strips. So always double check that you're on the right mark and you've got that lined up with the edge of the fabric, and that you've got a thin line on your ruler lined up with that fold line. That ensures that your strip is going to be nice and straight and square. We'll cut across. There we go. So that's how to cut your strips. Now let's take this strip and we're going to cut it into our diamond shapes. So the first thing we need to do is establish that angle, and I don't really like cutting like this at an angle, so I'm going to kind of tilt my board just a bit so that way that cut can remain nice and straight to my body. I'm not cutting at some kind of awkward angle here. So what I'm doing is lining up the 45-degree angle on the edge of that strip, and I'm making sure that I'm leaving just a little bit extra down here. I might end up using this little extra piece. So we're going to cut right across. That's going to establish our 45-degree angle. Okay, now I'm going to smooth this out, and now I'm going to line up my ruler with the 4.5-inch mark on the edge of that 45-degree angle we just cut, and I'm lining up the 45-degree angle with the top edge of that strip. So we're lining up two things at once here. And take your time. This is something you don't want to rush. We're cutting across the grain of the fabric. We're cutting on the bias. You want to really make sure that you take your time with this. And another thing that's really going to help, pre-wash and starch all of your fabric for this quilt twice. Starch it twice. That's going to ensure it's nice and stiff and stable and easy to work with. Okay, so I've got the 4.5-inch mark here lined up. I've got the 45-degree angle right here on the edge of the fabric lined up. Cut right across. Okay, so you're going to want to cut 3 pieces from each fat quarter that's this size. And now we're going to cut all of the rest of it. Once you get 3 big chunky diamonds cut, then you're going to cut your little ones. This creates the double stripes. So the little ones, you line up the 2.5-inch mark on the edge of the fabric here and the 45-degree angle across the top. So make sure both things are lined up nicely. Press firmly and cut across. So take your time cutting out all of your fabric this way. You're going to cut 3 big diamonds that are 4.5 inches wide, and all of the rest of the fat quarter cut into 2.5-inch wide diamonds. Next, we'll lay out our strips and start sewing this quilt together. So I've taken a minute to cut out all of my background diamonds. So this is white fabric that I've cut in that 2.5-inch wide diamond. So that's going to be the background that goes between all of the other shapes. So now I'm just going to grab a random arrangement, and I want to create a pattern, the double stripe pattern. So we're going to go with a white strip, then a fat quarter, then a white strip, then another fat quarter piece. Let me slide this down so that way you can see the whole thing. And you can see you really get a lot of length really quickly here. And then we're going to grab one of those nice big chunky ones, but you got to have white in between. So there you go. That's going to be the strip set. So you'll sew this together, a white strip, colorful strip, white strip, colorful strip, white strip, and then one of those nice wide diamonds. And so just play around with your arrangement. Make every single one different and nice and scrappy. When we take it to the machine, you're going to flip this over, but you're not going to line up the tip of that diamond with the corner of that shape because it would end up coming out wrong. Instead, you're going to offset it a bit, slide it forward a good 1/2 inch. So let's take this machine and I'll give you some tips on sewing these together. So I'm here at the machine and I'm lining up the tip of that point so it extends beyond the corner of that white diamond by 1/2 inch. And you can always double check yourself by sliding it underneath your needle. And the edge of your foot, if you're using a 1/4 inch patchwork foot, then the edge of your foot will be on the edge of the fabric and your needle will be coming in and it will be hitting both fabrics. So that point will extend just a little further up. There we go. That looks good. Now I'm using a scrap charger here, and that helps me be able to take my very first stitch right onto the diamond shapes and not have to worry about the machine suddenly gagging. You know, when you have those nice long thread tails, sometimes they get sucked down into the bottom of the machine and it doesn't work out all that well. So watch out for that. Now coming down here, I'm just keeping an eye on this end, making sure that's in nice alignment. And then throughout, as I'm stitching this on, I'm keeping an eye on this edge of my patchwork foot, making sure that the fabrics don't extend beyond the edge or slip underneath. So that way I maintain a nice accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way through. So those two are stitched. I'll grab the next 2 fabrics. Do the same thing. So I really like stitching this together into a set. So you always have the white fabric on the bottom and the colorful fabric on top. If you're piecing with white thread, this means that you'll be able to really nicely see what you're doing. So it's a really good system, and I was surprised just how quick this quilt came together, even with the diamond shapes. You know, that little bit of extra time it takes to cut them, it still came together really, really fast. So there we go, lined up and ready to go. And Jen, once I get my needle in it and I've started piecing a bit, I always double check the whole length of the seam. I come down on the end, make sure that that's looking good, and then just kind of grip it. I'm putting some fingertip pressure here on this end as I slide it right up into the machine. And then this is chain piecing, so I just grab the next piece of the chain and slide it in. So this is the last set, and that is the white fabric, and then that nice big chunky diamond. Here we go, line that up too. And there are triangle trimmers and stuff like that that you can use that will lop off that edge just exactly right. I don't usually use those just simply because I can eyeball it. But if you have something like that, if you have a tool like that, it's certainly useful. Go on ahead and use it. So here we go, sliding that up. That looks good. There we go. And you don't have to worry about it being too perfect or exact because we're not really matching up any seams in this quilt. We're going to piece background fabric to both sides of these strips, and that's going to set out our double stripe, you know, our colorful double stripes apart from the rest of the quilt. So really, it doesn't even matter if these seams get off a bit. So don't panic if your piecing's not 100% perfect. So now I'm taking a second to finger press these seams open. You want to use your fingers to open up seams nice and flat, because if you try and open this up with the tip of your iron, you're just going to dig at it and really distort it. So be careful with that. So now I'm going to press, just set the iron right on top of the fabric and give it a good press and open up and flatten out all of those seams. And if you're curious about pressing seams, you do it a different way, or you've heard something bad about this, please listen to my podcast episode, The Great Quilting Debate about pressing seams open. Okay, so there we go. That's our double stripe unit. Go on ahead and piece up all of your fabrics with your white diamonds, put them all together, and then start connecting these together too, and then we'll be ready to lay out our quilt. So here is our double stripe unit, and I have sewn 3 of them together, and then I took white fabric and cut it into 4.5-inch strips, and then just cut it at varying lengths. And that became the top of my piece, and I also cut a nice long length for the bottom edge. And this is just very random. I laid this out over my table, figured out how I liked the placement, how I wanted these to go. Some of my strips had only 2 units put together and a lot more white fabric on the end. You know, I just really played around with the layout, and I'll admit, this is one of those quilts that I got really picky with, like, oh no, that fabric can't be next to that fabric, stuff like that. It ended up taking a lot of time to plan everything out, but once I got it set, I was really, really happy with it. So it's up to you if you want to get really fiddly with it or not. I can say that a lot of times when I just kind of throw fabrics out on the table, sometimes the first time that they land, it's oftentimes the best. So what you're going to do is go ahead and sew all of the strips together lengthwise, then grab more 2.5-inch strips. And I just took 2 full length, that's 40 inches long by 2.5-inch long strips. I sewed them together with a diagonal seam, so a nice long, super long strip, and that became kind of the sashing between these extra long strips with the diamonds and double stripes. So that's how the quilt comes together, just these really long strips of fabric with these beautiful bright colors. And here's what it looks like whenever you finish the double stripe quilt. So that's it for this video. I hope you learned a lot as we've created this double stripe quilt together. I love this cheerful fabric, and the inspiration for the name came from Wreck-It Ralph. That's a movie, so definitely watch the movie with your grandkids or your kids this weekend, and you can see where that association comes from. I think it'll give you a kick, and it'll make you like the quilt even more. And I think that this quilt would be even easier to put together and faster to lay out if it was just a 2-color quilt. So I want to make this again with just red and white and turn it into a candy cane double stripe quilt. So that's something I'm going to be trying definitely in the future. So if you're interested in Quilty Box and you'd like to get a box of fun gear and be able to quilt along with me each month, definitely check it out in a link below this video. Each month I challenge myself to get the Quilty Box and then use the fabrics that come with it, so that way I don't end up with lots of fabric bundles all over the house, lots of pre-cuts kind of stashed away. I want to be able to cut that stuff up and use it every single month and create a wide variety of quilts. So I hope that you'll come and join me each month for a new Quilty Box project. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube so you don't miss the next video coming out soon. Until next time, let's go quilt!